94.7 The Cave. KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Now, it's time for Ned Talk.
Yep, that's right. We're back in the studio after taking 4th of July off. Everybody have a good 4th of July, Ned?
It was very pleasant, very nice, very celebratory, and very patriotic the way it should be.
Yeah, did you, all your digits still there? Did you shoot off fireworks?
No, but in my neighborhood, it was back to Nam. It's what it sounded like.
Oh, wow. Wow. All right. I know you probably shot off fireworks, didn't you, John?
Yeah, the kids did. So the good news is we're not down any digits with them either. So
okay, good 4th of July.
Yeah, no, they had a good time. I agree with Ned though. And out where I'm at, just outside city limits, there were tons of fireworks. Tons, and we're still celebrating apparently. So happy July 10th and July 11th.
Right. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, it was a good time. I went over to a friend's house and hung out, and we barbecued. And
you don't have any friends.
You're right.
Don't lie about that.
But then my neighborhood, I live outside the city too, and so the fireworks have not stopped yet either. I think people maybe not overspent, but they wanted this to be a big one. So
I heard there was a slight fireworks shortage this year. Mm-hmm. Like everything else in the world, shortage of things.
I know prices were driven up quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know some people that sell them, and they said prices were at least up 50%, if not double.
Yeah,
what they were.
My nephew always goes and buys one of those big artillery shell things, and he usually spends usually in the last day, you can get one of those for about $150. They were $400.
Oh my God.
Where he was trying to buy them. So, I mean, that's crazy.
Well, wait a minute. How can there be problems with the economy when people are exploding $200 and $300 and $400 worth of fireworks?
Well, I don't know. That's just what we're being told is wrong. But today, one of the major events of the summer wrapped up, and that's Wimbledon. And our winner, I'll let Ned tell you about that.
Novak Djokovic wins the men's singles title, and that's hardly unexpected. He's the number one ranked player in the world. He is at the peak of his career right now, and going for what is very, very, very difficult, and that's an annual, in this case, by the year, Grand Slam in tennis. He's already won Australia. He won the French. Now he's won Wimbledon. He has only the U.S. Open. Only the U.S. Open.
Only the U.S. Open.
And he does that, and he becomes a Grand Slam winner for 1 year, and that's extremely difficult. Now, there are others who have won all 4 Grand Slam events, but it's been over several years, several seasons. But to win one in a single season is very tough, and it just is symbolic of his dominance in the sport. Mm-hmm. He's the winner, and the men and the women's number 1 seed, Ashley Barty from Australia, also the winner, beat Pliskova, Caroline Pliskova, who is a very good player. But Barty is outstanding player. Barty is going on to Japan for the Olympics. I don't know about Djokovic if he's going to play or not, but I know Nadal is not, and Federer is not.
What about your boy, Roger? Do you think he's done, or do you think he has something left in the tank?
It depends on how you categorize something left. Yes, he'll win. He'll continue to win his matches, but can he get over the top? The fella he lost to at Wimbledon, and he lost to him significantly, was Hubert Hurkacz from Poland, and he's 24, very strong young player. But in Federer's prime, he would have beaten this guy rather handily. Mm-hmm. Instead, Roger loses in straight sets, and the final set was 6-0, 6-love. Oh. That just has not happened to Roger Federer. I think in his career, I think it's 3 or 4 times, something like that. And think about his career. The guy turns 40 coming up here very shortly. Mm-hmm. But is he done? Again, maybe as far as winning Grand Slam championships are concerned, but no, he's not done as far as winning matches. He'll continue to do that. The guy's still a great player.
John, did you watch much of Wimbledon this year?
I actually watched a little bit. I was a big tennis fan when I was younger, and I lost interest for a few years, and then the last probably 3 or 4 years I've kind of gotten back into it. So I did watch a little bit. It's entertaining. Barty is a very impressive women's tennis player. I got to see a lot of her, and I think she's going to be dominant.
When you take a look at her, she's not your picturesque. And this is insulting, I know, but she's a stocky, athletic kid who can hit the daylights out of the tennis ball.
Yes, she can.
What about you, Josh? Did you watch any Wimbledon this year?
I did not. Tennis
Why are you even on this show?
Why am I here? What day is this?
No, did you? I mean, do you care? Is
I always look at this. I look at the results. I look to see who's winning, just so I know who the top players are. But I'm not enough of a fan of tennis to watch. I mean, every time I try to watch it, I fall asleep. So it's good for a nap for me.
I watched Djokovic play the other day, and he looked sharp. He just looked. We were talking before we went on the air. He looked absolutely like he was the best player in the world, and it would be hard for anybody to beat him.
Yes.
Do you think tennis still has the same cachet that it did 20 years ago, 25 years ago?
No, not in this country, because we haven't really produced any top flight players. There are some, mostly female, but it doesn't have the overall resonance than it did. I'm going to guess about 20, 25 years ago. Instead, interestingly enough, pickleball has taken over.
Yes.
Now pickleball is not tennis, and it's really unlike anything else other than a glorified ping pong somewhere along that line. It's a good workout and all that. You don't run; it's lateral movement. But by the same token, it isn't tennis. It's not ever going to be tennis.
Right.
But the answer to your question is it has lost some of its charm, yeah.
Let's stop and talk about that for just a minute, because I think it brings up an interesting point. Before we switched over to Wimbledon, the TV in the studio was on cornhole. And you laugh at it, but they're obviously, it's a big thing. Everywhere you go, you find cornhole sets, and they're a lot of them are expensive. I mean, $100 or more to buy basically.
It's big business. People design them and sell them. Yeah.
2 boards of wood and a couple of bags of rice, but their ESPN2 was televising some cornhole championship. Do you think people are leaning away from traditional sports these days?
I think it's all based on whatever happens to be faddish at the time. How about horseshoes, quoits, croquet? They were all big at one time, and people conglomerated toward whatever was going on. But hey, the cornhole happens to be the thing now that everybody plays, and I see them at restaurants and all that sort of thing. But it's a fad. People are into it. It'll take its dive just like everything else. It's all part of the way we live.
As a youth who watched as many sports as I could, I fondly remember Joe being up at 1 or 2 in the morning and watching strongman competitions and axe cutting competitions, log cutting. Ping pong was televised. Roller derby. I was a huge roller derby fan when that was still around, and it's still around. I shouldn't say that, but when it was popular and televised,
it was kind of like wrestling. There was a lot of regional networks that carried roller derby and roller derby teams, but I think it's interesting that there's certain things that get televised once again that seem to come back into fashion. I think people are kind of moving away from the non-traditional athletics. Personally, I feel that way. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is you have people who are maybe not able or didn't want to play those traditional athletics, and so they've picked up something else, and it's become popular enough to where it's getting press, it's getting TV time, it's getting a championship that's sponsored by some company, so there's money involved in it. And I think you see that in a lot of pop culture. There's a game called Magic the Gathering, which is a card game, and when it first came out, it was an interesting concept, but now they have a world championship tournament where the winner gets like $3 million.
Same, I think, can be said, guys, for these e-games that are around.
Oh, yeah.
It happens to be the thing. Yep. How long will it last? Well, nobody knows, but it may be around forever, but I kind of feel it falls into that fad category. That's where we are right now. Now, there are other circumstances that don't. The identification part of it really figures into whether or not the human species can compete, like everyday golf, tennis. They can't in basketball or baseball because that requires the elite athlete who one can identify with, but only from a team standpoint. But from an individual, I play tennis. Well, do you play like Roger Federer? No, but I play tennis.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. We're having a conversation about non-traditional sports. It just kind of came up because we were watching cornhole earlier. You were talking about esports. A couple of years ago, we had on the athletic director for Drury University, and he said that they had actually started an esports scholarship, esports team at the school. So that might end up being something a little more than a fad. I don't see, Kyle Moats starting a cornhole team at Missouri State University, but you never know. Ned's looking at me.
You never know.
You never know.
Well, yes, we do. We do know in that one. That's not going to happen. But I'll tell you what they do have is an NCAA sport at Missouri State, and that's beach volleyball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That does count. It is one of the, I don't know how many Missouri State has. I know they're mandated to have at least 16 sports, and I think that's the same with Drury. But that's why Drury has the fishing, and I think maybe Missouri State might be entertaining rowing or something like that. They haven't put it in yet. But whatever the case is, you do have to fill that particular billet for any kind of sports. Again, the esports, I just cannot imagine that's going to overtake, because for one thing, it does require a piece of equipment to be able to do it, and it's not inexpensive. So I think there are many variables involved here.
It's really interesting to see the way that people embrace and change sports over the years. And I don't want anybody to take what we're saying as being demeaning of anybody that does any of these things, because if you watch somebody that's at the top of whatever they do, we were watching the cornhole, and Josh said, "Do these guys ever miss?" And as a person who plays cornhole and is lucky to get one in a game, I'm like, wow, how do they do that? Or I've admitted in the past that I watch darts, and these guys are in less physical shape than I am, and they, they're able to do this amazing thing. Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. And you talked about beach volleyball. When I watch people play beach volleyball, I just think the endurance you have to slog through that sand and then play at a top level, especially because I think there's only two people on a side, and it's pretty amazing.
What you mentioned there, the key word that you used was the endurance, because that figures into every single level of athletic competition and competition
period
in society. When you can endure whatever the circumstances are, then you can usually, it's called consistency. And if you can be consistent with what you do, it doesn't always mean you're going to win, but if you can consistently be in a challenging situation in anything, you're going to be all right. But that requires concentration, motivation, and dedication. You better be able to dedicate yourself to what you're going to do.
I think we live in an age where non-traditional sports are becoming more and more to the fore. Is there anything that you watch, John, that non-traditional, you like, it's on TV, I got to see this?
Here's a great example, and I think with the non-traditional sports that we're talking about, a lot of this is, somebody can't just decide to play baseball on an afternoon. You have to get, 18 people at least. Football, basketball, same thing, it's harder. When you look at something that I'm going to bring up that was popular for a decade, red hot, what about Texas Hold'em? Have we forgotten about how popular that was?
Yeah, I can't watch that, though.
See, I can, just because it's a fascinating game. It does require skill. It's against an opponent. And we talk about endurance. Some of those matches go on for days at a time between these guys. And I mean, we're not far removed from Doyle Brunson becoming a household name after years, and Daniel Negreanu, and, all of the other top players. That was big for a solid decade. So I look at esports and some of these other things, and I think they may have better staying power than some may think. It's accessible. Yes, it requires equipment, but it's feasible for your average person to be able to participate.
I think that's a great point, because you, as I said, when you look at the guys that throw darts, you think, that guy weighs more than I do.
And he probably
and I'm sure he's drunk while he's doing it too. So
he's got a pint in one hand and the dart in the other,
a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and
Brian, kind of athlete.
There you go, Ned.
What about you, Josh?
I love darts. If I see darts,
you spent time in Great Britain, so
I did, and I can honestly tell you that I knew a guy in London that was the best dart thrower I have ever seen, and he was exactly what you just described: cigarette hanging out of the left side of his mouth, pint in one hand, and he was left-handed. And I'd say, hit a triple 20. bam, he'd hit it. Hit a double bull, bam, he'd hit it. He was the best dart thrower I'd ever seen.
Yeah, but Josh, think about this, though. They have done this.
Oh, forever. They
From
grew
the
up.
time they were 2 years old.
That's
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
Going
Absolutely
with dad
true.
to the pub. And that's how that is exactly how you learn a skill. It's doing it from the very young age. The great tennis players, Djokovic, Federer, they all took this game up when they were 5 and 6 years old.
Exactly.
Here's one that I may not get the name right. What was the Red Bull sponsored thing, Flugtag or something, where they would make these vehicles that they were trying to get to fly, and then they'd push them off of a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
They were judging how far they would go before they hit the water.
Have you ever watched the flying things where they have the smaller planes and they fly through this obstacle course?
Yes.
And I think that's big in Australia. And then recently I watched, and some of these things, when you turn them on, you're just fascinated by them. Like, well, how does this work? How did this end up on TV? How does somebody get to be so good? One of the ones that I was amazed with was the drones. The drone stuff is amazing when you watch it. But again, it doesn't require athletics, but it requires a tremendous amount of discipline and skill and eye and hand coordination. I mean, that is athletics, but it's kind of amazing.
I've got to tell you guys, this just doesn't fall into this category, but when I was a kid, and this is many, many years ago, one of the TV staples was what's it called, Destruction Derby or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was always held on this course or whatever you call it at West Islip, Long Island. And they'd send cars out there, and they would crack up, and it made great television. Actually, it was kind of filmed, and then the film was cut. Then they had, and here's our feature, the crack up of the week. What on earth is?
Yeah.
on earth?
You remember the days of ABC's Wide World of Sports.
This
Loved
always
it.
preceded it, as a matter of fact.
And there were so many things that you got to see sport-wise that ABC would televise for those.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first place that I got to see the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what else was on there.
That's the first place I saw Muhammad Ali box.
Really?
Was on Wide World of Sports.
Really,
was a great show.
Was that the fight with Norton?
Probably.
Yeah.
I was young enough that I just remember Muhammad Ali in a boxing match on regular television.
I'll tell you what that was, too. That was the 72 match with Norton, the kid who played basketball at Northeast Missouri. And Norton beat him, broke his jaw in that fight. And Howard, I can't believe I'm seeing, it was one of those Saturday made-for-TV that Ali was supposed to win and did not. Just like the USA was supposed to beat Nigeria last night and did not.
Well, I mean, talking about a sport that's gained an immense amount of popularity in a really short span of time, the last decade, is MMA.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's really eclipsed boxing. First of all, the characters in it. I'm not demeaning, but it is the people that are bigger than life.
Yeah.
Like boxing stars Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and Ken Norton and Joe Louis. All those guys were bigger than life sort of people. And these MMA guys are the same way. And last night there was the match with Colin McGregor and
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
I said Colin McGregor. Sorry about that.
What he did was he apparently fractured his ankle and could not go on. And Poirier gets the decision. I think Poirier probably was going to win it anyway. But there's where I have the argument about that sport. That isn't the skill level that boxing is.
No,
boxing
it's not.
is a base sport. Come on, the object is to knock the other guy's head off. But there is defense. There are skill levels with bob and weave and jab. There's nothing in this MMA stuff. You throw the guy to the ground and stomp on him and whatever. And I don't like it.
I would kind of disagree with you there because these guys are trained in martial arts where they're supposed to be able to get people in holds, prevent themselves from getting in holds and locks. And so there's a lot more of that going on. That the problem is you don't necessarily notice it when they're like rolling around on the ground because one of them's trying to get the other one in a chokehold and the other one's trying to stop it. So you see a lot of dead time in MMA when guys are like that. I like it when they're more standing toe-to-toe anyway because then it's more like boxing.
I will tell you, though, Josh, and this is not an argument in any way, but I saw the clips, the video clips. The place where they had this in Las Vegas was sold out. Looked like about 22, 23,000 people. And then I wanted to see the massive eruption of the crowd when a certain individual walked in prior to it. And did you see that?
No.
The president of the former president of the United States was there in attendance, and the place went wild. Of course, these are his people out there, but over and above all that, it does have an appeal.
Oh, yeah.
It does, and you cannot deny that. Is it the appeal that a true boxing individual aficionado might have? Probably not. It does not appeal to me.
Mm-hmm. I think when you saw somebody that really knew what they were doing in the boxing ring, when you saw somebody, boxing's nickname is the sweet science.
Oh, yes.
And when you saw somebody that was a really great boxer, you had a huge appreciation for the sport. I mean, Mike Tyson electrified the sport, but he wasn't a great boxer.
No.
He just could take a punishment, and he could get in close enough. He could get in close enough to a guy because he could take the hits.
Oh yeah.
And then once he got in close enough, the guy was done.
Right.
That was it. It was over.
I think Evander Holyfield was a great boxer.
He was. He was. He had a lot of abilities about him, too, much more than Tyson had.
Yeah.
You're right about Tyson. Very physical character. And look how long his reign lasted. Not very long. He was probably at his peak for, a year and a half?
I would say,
there.
right in there.
And then lifestyle and things of that nature got to him, but so did his lack of boxing knowledge.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bruno Whitaker was someone who I absolutely adored because he was a technician in the ring.
Watch some of the bantamweight and the lightweight, middleweight guys. Tommy Hitman Hearns.
Oh yes,
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Marvin Hagler.
I can't think of his name right now.
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, Manny Pacquiao. Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Just great boxers. I mean, guys that had a true skill.
That's right.
With what they're doing. Usually, the better fights were not the heavyweight fights.
Oh no,
they were the lighter weight fights. Well, it was a great conversation. I enjoyed that. So we'll talk about some more traditional sports as we hit the next segment. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
It's Sunday. That's where we're at. I got ahead of myself there. I was thinking about something else. Sunday afternoon, and we're talking sports. I'm Joe Westen, Josh Roberts, John Oliver, Ned Reynolds. We got into talking about non-traditional sports. Let's talk a little basketball. First of all, let's go to the NBA Finals. And so far, it's all gone Phoenix Suns' way. You were talking about Devin Booker. I have not watched him play that much, but what I've seen, very impressive.
And also a member of the U.S. Olympic team who is not able to play, at least right now. He will be when the series is over. He'll join them. Same with Chris Middleton of Milwaukee and Jrue Holiday. Those three Olympic team members are out at the moment, so they're having to use substitute players in there. But I think the Phoenix Suns are a very nice basketball team, especially like DeAndre Ayton. I think he may be the key to this team. Big, rugged center who can do a lot of things in there and own the baseline on these teams. I like Phoenix. That's not to say they won't win all their games. It won't be a sweep. I don't think that'll happen.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you foresee a sweep in this one?
No, I think the Bucks maybe win tonight. The Bucks are a good team now.
Yeah, no, I know. They're a good team. Giannis probably maybe the best player in the NBA. You say it's Kevin Durant, and maybe Giannis who's the best player?
I think Durant's the best player in the world.
Yeah. What about you? You're John Oliver's our resident NBA expert. What do you think?
I think this has been I was talking about this with a friend of mine, and I think the playoffs and the finals have spelled out that the NBA is set for at least a decade to come. Young stars are coming out of the woodwork. You've got Giannis, absolutely, amazing. Devin Booker's a young guy we brought up. Ned, you brought up DeAndre Ayton, who this was his coming out party for me. People forget some of these guys come out when they're 18. And so they think they've been in the league 2 or 3 years like Ayton has. They're a flop. Ayton's 21.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of time left. So, I mean, between these guys and the Trae Youngs and Jason Tatums and Zion Williamsons, basketball's great. The finals have been entertaining. It's all been the Suns. I definitely would not count out the Bucks by any means, but I think it would be really nice for Chris Paul, who I think is a name most people know, to finally get a finals win.
He's got to stop, or got to apportion his time selling insurance as opposed to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Have you watched any, Josh?
I haven't watched any, but you know
Again,
what?
why are you on the show?
No, here's my opinion of all this. If it's not the Lakers, it's over. But no, I think it's cool that two different teams are in the finals for once. As much as I'm an Alabama homer and I want them to win the national championship every year in college football, I like to see other teams get an opportunity to win a championship in other sports. So I think it's cool that the Suns are in there. I think it's cool that the Bucks are in there. Whoever wins, I think it's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, watch a little bit of it. I think you'll find it entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
To watch. Ned, you wanted to talk about, an upset last night. Tell us about it.
Not surprised and not shocked, because the Nigerian team that beat the USA Olympic team is a good ball club. Are they as good as the USA? No, not personnel-wise, but they were last night because they were ready to play, because their coach, Mike Brown, and all he is a former NBA Coach of the Year with the Cavaliers and now currently an assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors, one of Greg Popovich's former assistant coaches. Mike Brown knows the game very, very well. He has taken this collection of Nigerian athletes, most of whom, if not all of them, live in this country, all of whom went to college here. 7 of them play in the NBA. Are they NBA stars? No, but what they can do is absorb the lessons. They out-hustled the USA last night, outscored them. It was embarrassing. Outscored them with 60 of their 90 points. 60 of the 90 points were results of three-point shots. They made 20 of them in the game. Wow. USA had maybe 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere around
That's
there.
Golden State hot.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what it was: picking and screening, and the USA did none of that, none whatsoever.
That's kind of surprising because that's the hallmark of a Greg Popovich basketball team.
There is no question about that's exactly right. But they haven't been together but more than a week, and not everybody's there. Not that the 3 who were missing. Well, Devin Booker may have made a big difference because he's a pretty good scorer.
Yeah.
But they couldn't score. Here is a guy like Durant, who is the best basketball player in the world, and he had 17 points, and that's really misleading because he missed an awful lot of them. Jason Tatum missing shots, Bradley Beal missing shots that were underneath. But those things do happen. That's part of basketball. But the bottom line is this: the Nigerian team is very much indicative of what the USA is going to face in the Olympic Games. You've got to be ready every single time out, no matter what the situation is.
Do you see a gold medal in USA's future or not?
Haven't seen, of course, any of the other teams play. The USA plays Australia tomorrow night, and then they play Argentina the next night, and then I think they have the Aussies again.
Does Oscar still play for the Argentina team?
Oscar.
Oscar.
No, I think he's in a nursing home.
He was a great basketball player.
He's the best basketball player internationally who never played here in the USA. That guy could do everything. Anyway, no, he was Brazil, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that was Argentina. Maybe it was Brazil.
I think it was Brazil.
Oh, all those countries run together.
But the Argentinian team will be a very good one. They bring players up to compete in the NBA, and they're good because basketball's developed into an international sport. And you're bringing in and developing players who are outstanding. You've got to be ready to play.
That's one thing the NBA has done extremely well is they've gone outside of the United States to develop basketball in other countries. You know, it's something that Major League Baseball is doing well. Football has a difficult time with it because it just doesn't translate to other countries, I think.
Right.
Other countries like to watch it, but as far as getting international players, that's something that's kind of yet to be seen whether that'll happen with the NFL. What do you think, Johnny? Did you watch the game last night? What's your thoughts on it?
I saw some highlights of it. It's your typical. Ned made a great point. These guys, they're all great basketball players. There's no denying that. But they've only been together a week. Their egos, they aren't used to playing with each other. It's going to take some time for this team to gel. And I think that's been the U.S.'s Achilles heel in the Olympics for the times they haven't done well. You have individuals who are more concerned about how they look. They need to score 20 points to keep their favor. as opposed to scoring 10 and helping the team win. So I hope this group isn't that. I think Greg Popovich is a fantastic coach. I think if anyone can get them to play together, it's him. But this brought out the issues that we've seen when the U.S. has looked bad in international competition. It becomes a stat game rather than playing as a team as the other countries will, because their reputations are on the line.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting point that I was thinking of, Ned, when you were talking about this. When you face a team like Nigeria or Argentina or Brazil or wherever, most of these guys have played together for a significant amount of time. And so it's like for them getting back into, I played with this guy and we played with all, it's like getting back together with the old gang and playing basketball. It probably doesn't take them as long as taking all this disparate parts from the USA team.
No question about it. That is the fact. Now, you say the argument to that is, well, they don't have pro basketball in those countries. Au contraire, they do.
Yeah.
Right. But they also have situations where everybody can stay together and play together. Not here. We're very diverse with what we do. And during the NBA season, which is lengthy from late September until now, for heaven's sake, coaches and owners don't want those players doing anything else, whereas in other countries they're a whole lot more lenient and can play together. It doesn't happen by magic. You have to come together and work together, and I think this USA team will, because they're a pretty dedicated and intelligent bunch. But they got to watch out, because fortunately for them, this game happened and it doesn't count. But the others starting up next week, they are going to count.
I would ask Josh what his thoughts were, but I know he didn't watch it, so we're not even going to do that. We'll come back in a minute with our roundtable discussion. We'll talk about pretenders and contenders in Major League Baseball right here on Ned Talk.
I'm just going to leave.
You're listening to Ned Talk. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network.
Yes, we are Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network. Getting ready to start. The schedule's actually right in front of me. It's really tiny. Mike, the intern, picked the smallest, like almost a postage stamp size schedule. And the first game on the schedule is August 14th. That is a Saturday at the San Francisco 49ers. Wow, that's a month away.
It is.
It's a month away before we start doing Ned Talk
Crazy.
before football games. That's just, insane. Insane to me. We're going to do our roundtable discussion, and we're at the midway point, past the midway point, actually, for baseball statistically, but it is the traditional. It's the All-Star break, which last game before the break is tonight. The All-Star game will be Tuesday night. And let's talk about that, Ned. Pretenders and contenders at the top of the AL West, Houston Astros. Now, they've been shut out the last two nights by my New York Yankees.
I would still label them as a very strong contender. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win, but they're in a tough division, and the Astros, I'll tell you who to watch out for is the Angels. They're playing very well at the moment. Are they a team that's capable of doing that consistently? That remains to be seen. But I put the Astros in the contender situation. They're not pretenders by any stretch of the imagination. They're not as strong as the world champion Astros of several years ago, but they are still a very good team.
Now, Oakland's fallen off the pace a little bit. They're 3.5 back, and most of the season they've been at the top of that league, top of that division. What are your thoughts? Are they a pretender?
Well, they also fall into the iffy category, because when they were leading the league at the start of the year and played so very well, I remember making the statement, I don't know how this team does that.
Yep.
They're amazing. They get, their fan support is limited. They've already been given permission by Major League Baseball to seek a new home, and I think next year they'll have one. And maybe in California, but it also may be in Nevada. But be that as it may, it's a team that has everything going against them, and yet they still win. Now, can they this year? They've begun to falter just a little bit. I would still label them as a contender, but not a strong one.
The one division in Major League Baseball that always seems to be a runaway division is the American League Central. And the Chicago White Sox have, I would say, quietly stayed on top of that division. They have a 7.5 game lead over the Cleveland Indians. What are your thoughts on the White Sox, John?
The White Sox are for real. They were my preseason favorite to win the pennant in the American League. Tony La Russa is a great manager, no matter what age he's at. At the end of the day, though, this team is so talented. Tim Anderson is one of the most dynamic players in the major leagues. He's leading off. Jose Abreu is a perennial MVP. They're getting reinforcements back, too, on top of this. They've stayed on top with injuries. Yoan Moncada has missed a lot of time for them. Luis Robert will be back in about a month. Eloy Jimenez, who many have forgotten about because he got hurt before the season, will be back shortly. And then pitching-wise, Carlos Rondon, Lance Lynn, Dallas Keuchel.
You're going to count on Lance Lynn?
Hey, the guy's pitching
Cy
well.
Young
He's
worthy.
All right.
And then you're overlooking the big one. Here they go to the farm, and who do they bring up? Their number one draft choice of several years ago, one Jake Berger from Missouri State University.
That's right.
All he does is fill in and go, get this. He's played in, I think, 10 games since they called him up, batting .381 at the moment. Good gracious, come on. This is an embarrassment of riches on that team.
It is.
American League East, the Boston Red Sox are on top there. They've been kind of flip-flopping back and forth with the Tampa Bay Rays. Josh, do you care?
No. I don't care about the American League.
All right,
Except for the Royals. I like the Royals.
Let's go back to Ned. Boston Red Sox.
Well,
I think they're a contender.
Yes.
The Red Sox are, but they're going to have to fend off Tampa Bay because at the Rays were the World Series team last year. They know what they're doing. They're another one, kind of like the Oakland A's in a way. They don't have a whole lot of support, play in the smallest ballpark in Major League Baseball, and still they're getting the impetus to win, and they continue to win, and it's more mental with them. They're good players, but they also know that they belong out there and are going to do well.
The most consistent team in baseball this season, and they still have the best record in baseball, is the San Francisco Giants, quietly, 56-36, but they only have a 2-game lead over a team that is kind of slumbered through most of the season. That's the Dodgers. What are your thoughts on the Dodgers, John?
The Dodgers will win that division. San Francisco's a nice story. They've played extremely well. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. However, the core that they were relying on is aged at best.
Yeah, Buster
Posey's now hurt.
Yeah.
Evan Longoria is out for an extended period. He was one of their big bets. They do still have Brandon Crawford, who at 33-34 is having an exceptional year for a shortstop. Those guys are going to break down. I don't think the pitching outside of Gausman is there. I just see the Dodgers running away with it now with Bellinger healthy. Seager's on his way back soon. I really think they'll run away with it.
Don't mean this to be disparaging to the Cardinals, but when they go into San Francisco and take 2 out of 3 from the Giants, you have to say, oh, my goodness. And this team was in the lead at one point. Now, the Dodgers, admittedly, folks, the worst team in baseball is the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Dodgers beat them last night 22-1.
Ooh. Well, I think any given day with baseball, because I certainly don't think that the Yankees are better than the Astros, but as I said, they shut them out the last 2 days in a row.
Yes.
And when you shut down a high-powered offense like that, it can happen, and it happens to the good teams. There's teams every year that it seems like your team can't beat, whatever that team is. We'll get to the National League Central. Just hold on shortly. Let's go to the National League East. The Mets are doing it with pitching. They're atop of that division by 4 games over the Atlanta Braves. Your Phillies are 4.5 back. That's probably the closest division in baseball because the Nats are still lingering out there at 6 games back. So all that's really within striking distance. Really, the Marlins at 10, the only team that's not in it. Do you think the Mets are for real?
I do. When you have a Jacob deGrom throwing to lead your staff, you have a very good pitching staff. You can count Atlanta out of it. They've lost their top player, Acuna. He is out for the year now with a knee injury, so I look for them to plummet. Philadelphia will stay in there if they get their offense being consistently strong, and they are capable of doing that. When you get a Harper in there and some of the other key parts of that ball club, they can play the game. It's a matter of whether or not Girardi can get them and a cohesive case, and whether or not he can get his pitching to remain intact long enough. They could overcome the Mets. I don't think they will. I think the Mets win that division, though.
National League Central, one everybody cares about. Let's talk about it right now. It is a division that seems, for the most part, that everybody's in it except for the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 19 games out. Mm-hmm. They are just behind the Cardinals, who are 8.5 back. The Cubs are 8.5 back. Cincinnati's 5 back, and Milwaukee's on top. Is Milwaukee for real? Start with you, John.
They are. They absolutely are. Getting Yelich back somewhat healthy has helped them. The thing that goes under the radar for most is they made a trade for a, quote, light-hitting shortstop, Willie Adames, who has absolutely invigorated that team. They are for real. Osvaldo Garcia is having a fantastic year for them. Their bullpen, Devin Williams, St. Louis kid, Josh Hader, starting pitching's been strong. They're going to win that division. Now, do you see a wild card team coming out of the rest of the Central? I'm not convinced.
Hey, well, Cincinnati, well, it's tough to say because the Padres and the Dodgers both have really good records. They both have over 50 wins at this point. And then it's Cincinnati that would be kind of on the cusp of that. You talked about Cincinnati being a really good team, but the pitching's not been there.
Yeah, they have a very good offensive ball club. They can hit the daylights out of the ball. Matter of fact, going into today's game, they have taken 2 from the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee. The Reds can play, but I don't think they have the consistent level of pitching to really stay in a race. The one that I had an interview with Bob Nightingale, who, in my opinion, is the best baseball writer in America. He says he does not see the Brewers going anywhere at all. They're going to stay on top. Does he see the Cardinals in the race? Cardinals would have to get very hot, and get their pitching staff back, get a Flaherty back, get a Michaelis back. Michaelis, I don't think, is going to come back, in my opinion, but Flaherty will. And with some of these other guys they have, now they have Martinez, and he's apparently gone for the year. This is a thumb ligament. Now, is that necessarily a bad thing? Not really, because he's been shelled in some of his appearances this year, but then he is an innings eater in a lot of respects. So he's out. They're having to go. Here's a giveaway, guys, in my opinion. When you take a look at the minor leagues, and especially at Double-A level, where the Springfield Cardinals are right now, and their record is, I think, 21-36 or 20-36 or 21-36. They came off a 6-game winning streak. 2 of the pitchers on their staff, the club has gone to independent ball to get these pitchers. Now, does that tell you something? Does me.
Your team is the Cubs, Josh. I know you have an opinion about this. So their reports is that they're in a fire sale mode.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I mean, if you asked me if they were a contender, I'd say no, they're not. Because I think the Brewers are going to win that division and nobody else is going to come out of it in the playoffs just because they're going to beat each other up all season. And the Brewers just kind of keep raising that level a little bit more. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cubs do a fire sale. And I just... they're still basking in the glory of winning a World Series in 2016.
Is Anthony Rizzo one of those?
I think it's very possible. I mean, I think I wouldn't be surprised if all of them go. I mean, I don't know,
Rizzo, no, but Bryant, yes, in my opinion.
I think Bryant and Kimbrel will both be traded. I think Baez is kept, and I think Rizzo's kept.
I see Kimbrel going back to the Red Sox.
I absolutely agree.
Because I think that may be one of their weak points is their bullpen. I don't know Chris Bryant, the Dodgers will be in on that because they want every young star that they could possibly get. They're the Yankees of the 70s because they just try to snag up everybody they can. That being said, we're close to the next big mark in baseball. That's the trade deadline, and quickly Max Scherzer is the golden goose out there that everybody wants, but Washington's not out of it at 6 games.
They're not going to let him go. In my opinion, the market is not right for him. Washington's going to want a king's ransom for them, and the Cardinals certainly won't give that up. No, I foresee him staying with Washington. I see him staying with a team that could make a charge. Don't count Washington out of this thing yet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Let's real quickly go around the table and say, who do you see making a charge?
In the East?
In anywhere, in
Washington,
baseball.
Washington.
At this point, I think Oakland will right side. I think they'll be fine.
Josh?
I agree with Oakland, but I think what you guys have already said, I think the Dodgers are going to, keep moving and end up blowing that division away.
I will be the eternal optimist and say the Yankees are going to make a charge here.
I could absolutely see that.
I think that maybe some of their moves here early in the season to try to keep these guys healthy will maybe come back to help them as they go forward. And they played really well, but they're so inconsistent. Right. I mean, one week they go 4-6 or 2-8, and the next week they go 8-2. So we'll come back and wrap up the show just a minute. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
I mentioned it. We're just around the corner from the start of the season. It's about a month away. And I'm excited. The Chiefs news to report for this week is not good. Frank Clark has been charged with a felony. And real quickly, do you see them parting ways with Frank Clark?
Not only has he been charged with a felony, that was his first offense. The one that occurred a couple weeks ago, he hadn't even been charged in that yet. That's still pending. A felony for a concealed weapon carries about a jail term. The answer to your question, Joe, is no, I do not see him suiting up at all. Maybe never again.
Wow. That really hurts from a guy just being a bonehead, as we talked about before. It's just absolute silliness. The cheetah got engaged. That's our other big news story to pass along the week. Congratulations to him. Mitch Holthus will be coming to Springfield on July 22nd. He will be at the Riff, which is the corner of Kansas Expressway and Sunset. It is part of the Classic Rock Coffee Complex. This event sells out, and tickets are still available, though, for it right now online at 1047thecave.com. or through the Cave app. Ned Reynolds will be there. Ned, you want to pitch this real quick?
Art Haynes and I will do the interview, which we do every year with Mitch, who he carries the show himself. He has to. Are you guys going to be able to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes. I probably won't be, but
why not?
It's a fun time. It really is. Mitch
You got to be there. Do you just not care about things anymore?
I love everything.
I'm just giving you a hard time,
is
Josh.
very affable. He identifies very strongly with the audience, as he would. They're all Chiefs. Then he gets them all together at the end, and he goes through. It's choreographed, of course. It's 1, 2, 3. You're going to do what I say, and absolutely. Touchdown!
Yep.
It's fun. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Very.
I want him to do put the hammer down.
Oh, there you go.
This year, that would be cool if he did that. I've been to a couple of these, and it is phenomenal. Mitch Holthus made me a fan of him because you get his personality, you get him. Even though he's not, one of the main things that I always tell you when you go into this business is that people need to feel like you're talking directly to them. And Mitch Holthus makes you feel he's talking to you. He's just your excited friend at the bar or on the couch or wherever you're watching the game at. And but he's also the knowledgeable friend. And he does a spectacular job. If you're on the fence about going to this, go. It's fun.
I'll tell you how good it is. The governor was there 2 years
That's
ago.
right.
And we'll have food from Civil Kitchen there, too. So it should be a really, really good night. Again, tickets available, 1047thecave.com, or you can get them through the Cave app. And like I said, it's a lot of fun. July 22nd. I don't know what else to report about the Chiefs. I think otherwise it's been pretty quiet.
Well, sure, training camp doesn't begin for another 2 weeks. This is the big training camp. But no, and when you begin with a sordid story like Frank Clark, that's not usually very positive. In fact, not usually. It never is very positive. I just don't understand what in the world the man is thinking, and that's just the first of the offenses.
Right.
Not thinking.
Not thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to go home and watch the Cornhole Championships, or what are you going to watch on TV?
No, my afternoon calls for a quick preparation. I've got a TV game tonight with the Springfield Cardinals.
That's right. Ned will be on TV tonight himself, so we can all go home and watch Ned.
Thank you.
What are you going to watch?
I was going to watch the Cardinals Cubs. It's already been postponed for the day due to rain. I'll probably get some housework done, honestly.
That doesn't sound like fun. Josh,
all right.
what are you going to do?
I'm going to watch England versus Italy in the UEFA
I thought you were flipping me off
UEFA
for a second.
European Championship.
I've been not nice to you. We love Josh. Don't take it the wrong way. We do. I love Josh very dearly.
I'm the comic relief around here. These guys are the sports
I
fans.
love everybody here. Everybody does a great job. Thank you so much. We will see you guys in a week. If you are just tuning in and wanting the Devil's music, it is coming up next. And you can listen to us as a podcast. You can get that through our website, or you can download it wherever you get your podcast at. Thanks to Corbin Campbell, Scott Meyer, and Mike the intern. We'll see you in a week. Ned Talk, 104.7 The Cave.